The galaxy had long forgotten humanity. Centuries had passed since humans had once ruled the stars. Empires rose and fell. Alien fleets carved paths of fire across the void, and planets were claimed and lost in endless wars. In this vast galaxy, humans were a story told in whispers, a species that once mattered but had vanished under the weight of time. Many believed they were gone forever. Some even laughed at the thought of humans daring to return. At the edge of the Zareth Empire's territory, something unusual appeared. A single human warship, moving steadily through the blackness. Its hull was battered, old and scarred, but it shone under distant starlight, cutting through the darkness with quiet determination. Alien lookouts first noticed it on their sensors, and for a moment there was confusion. Then came laughter. Admiral Threx, a towering Zareth with 6 segmented arms and eyes that glowed like molten metal, let out a harsh, rattling chuckle. "Look at this," he hissed to his officers. "One ship, one human relic. They actually sent this? Pathetic." Around him, hundreds of Zareth warships aligned in formation, their weapons bristling. The fleet was vast, a force that had crushed entire planets without hesitation. Yet they felt no threat. One human ship was nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. On board the human ship, the crew moved quietly. The vessel was called Resolute, an ancient dreadnought built during the height of human spacefaring power. Its design was outdated by modern standards, its engines slower, and yet it carried something no alien ship could match: history, pride, and the indomitable will of humanity. Captain Elias stood on the bridge, his hands resting lightly on the console. His hair was streaked with gray, but his eyes burned with the same fire that had driven humans to conquer worlds long ago. He looked at the holographic display showing the approaching alien fleet, and allowed a small ironic smile to touch his lips. They laughed at him. Let them. That only made the moment sweeter. Around him, the crew worked calmly. Young men and women, most of whom had never seen a real battle, now faced the full might of the Zareth Empire. Fear gripped their hearts, but it did not break them. They had chosen to serve, to stand together on the edge of the galaxy, carrying the weight of an entire species' honor. "Captain," said Lieutenant Mara, her voice steady though her hands shook slightly, "they are hailing us. They want us to surrender." Elias did not flinch. He straightened, his presence commanding even in the silence of space. "Surrender?" he repeated softly, almost to himself. Then louder for the crew and the universe to hear. "We do not surrender. Not now, not ever. Tell them, humanity does not bow." The communications officer transmitted the message. Across the void, the alien fleet paused, their laughter echoing back in waves of disbelief. One ship's sensors picked up the broadcast, and Admiral Threx froze for a heartbeat. Then the laughter returned, louder, crueler. "Empty threats from a single relic," he bellowed. "Prepare to destroy it." Plasma cannons hummed, and targeting systems locked onto the Resolute. From the alien ship's beams of fiery energy tore across the darkness, striking the shields of the human vessel. The bridge shook with the first impacts. Sparks flew and warning sirens screamed through the corridors. Yet the humans did not panic. They had known this day might come. They had trained for it, dreamed of it, prayed that one day humanity would prove it was not gone, not weak, not defeated. "Shields holding at 70%, reported the engineer. Her fingers flew over the console, recalibrating systems with speed and precision that belied her fear. "Hull integrity is stable, but this is going to hurt if it keeps up." Captain Elias nodded. His jaw tightened. "Let them fire. Let them laugh. One day they will regret it. One day the galaxy will remember what humans can do when cornered." The alien fleet surged forward, confident, cruel, and proud. They saw only a lone ship, an old human relic. They could not see the heart behind the metal, the courage that burned brighter than any star, the spirit of a species that refused to vanish. And as the first volleys of alien fire struck the Resolute, the humans inside braced themselves, knowing that the laughter of the stars was about to be silenced in ways the galaxy would never forget. The Resolute had once been the pride of humanity's fleet. It was not the fastest nor the sleekest, but it was a warship built to endure, to survive impossible odds, and to fight when others would flee. Its hull was layered with centuries of reinforced alloy, dented and scarred from battles long past. It had drifted through the void for decades, forgotten by most of the galaxy, a relic of a civilization that many believed had vanished. but inside its decks, life still pulsed. The ship hummed with energy as systems roared back to life, as though the vessel itself remembered its purpose. The crew moved among the corridors with a mix of awe and fear. They were not trained soldiers. Most were miners, engineers, and colonists who had volunteered for a mission that no one else would dare accept. Yet each of them carried a spark of courage, a belief that humanity could still defy the odds. Captain Elias walked the bridge, scanning the stars. The alien fleet was vast, stretching beyond the horizon of sensors, their weapons trained on his single ship. The numbers were overwhelming, hundreds of warships against one. And yet he did not feel despair. He felt something far older, far stronger. Resolve. This ship, he whispered to himself, was made to fight impossible battles, and we were made to pilot her. Lieutenant Mara approached, her voice steady despite the tension. Captain, the weapon systems are ready. All primary guns are operational, but some of the reactors are unstable. We may not withstand prolonged engagement without risk. Elias nodded. He understood the danger, but he also understood something deeper. We are not here to survive, he said firmly. We are here to remind them. Humanity does not bend, does not break, and does not retreat. The human crew had heard stories of the old wars, stories of how humanity had fought entire fleets alone, how ships like the Resolute had turned the tide when hope was lost. They had studied the history, memorized the tactics, and learned from legends. Now in the blackness of space, those lessons would be tested for real. As the alien ships closed in, the hum of the Resolute seemed to grow louder, more alive. The engines thrummed, the shields glimmered with energy, and the guns awaited the captain's command. Each crew member knew their role. Every sensor operator, gunner, and engineer understood that one mistake could mean death. Yet none wavered. Fear existed, yes, but so did courage, and it burned brighter than the stars around them. Elias took a deep breath and addressed his crew. Remember this, we are not a single ship. We are the spirit of a species that refuses to vanish. The galaxy has forgotten humanity, but we will remind it. The aliens did not understand the human mind. They calculated strength by numbers and firepower, not by courage or defiance. They saw only one ship and believed it could be destroyed in minutes. But humans had something their enemies could never measure: the will to survive, the will to fight, and the willingness to risk everything for honor. From deep within the ship, the crew prepared. Targeting systems engaged, shields strengthened, and weapons powered up. The first salvo of alien fire would arrive any moment. Sparks danced across the bridge as minor systems overloaded from the strain. Smoke curled in the corners, but the crew ignored it. They were ready. Elias pressed his hands to the console and looked at the glowing readouts. They think this is an old, broken ship. They think one vessel cannot stop hundreds. Soon they will see the truth. As the first beams of enemy fire pierced the darkness, the Resolute held firm. Its shield shimmered, absorbing impact after impact. Then, for the first time in centuries, the guns of humanity roared to life. The human crew braced themselves as the ship unleashed its fury. A symphony of light and destruction that would soon teach the galaxy that even one human ship could stand against an empire. And somewhere, deep in the void, the laughter of the Zareth fleet faltered, though no one yet knew how brief it would be. The Zareth Empire had never faced a human ship like the Resolute. For a moment, even Admiral Threx hesitated, his many eyes narrowing in disbelief. One ship, just one, and yet it stood firm, its shields holding, its guns returning fire with a precision that no alien fleet had expected. "This cannot be," Threx growled, his voice trembling slightly. "How can one vessel survive against the might of hundreds?" On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias watched the enemy fleet with calm eyes. Around him, the young crew worked tirelessly. Each movement was practiced, precise. Every sensor operator, every gunner, every engineer knew what was at stake. Humanity's honor, humanity's survival. And maybe, just maybe, the chance to remind the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. The alien fleet opened communications, projecting their voices across the void. "Human vessel, surrender now!" Threx's booming tone echoed in the human ship. "You are alone. You are weak. Your species is finished. Stop this madness." The bridge was silent. The words hung in the air, heavy with scorn. Then Elias stepped forward. His voice, calm and steady, cut through the tension. "Finished?" he repeated. Then louder so the entire fleet could hear. "Finished? Humanity is never finished. We are not numbers or machines. We are life. We are courage. And we are not afraid of you. Lieutenant Mara looked at him, eyes wide. Captain, do you really think they will listen? Elias shook his head, a small ironic smile touching his lips.
No, they never listen.
But they will watch. And one day they will remember. The first salvo of alien fire struck. Plasma beams lit the void, smashing into the Resolute's shields. The ship shuddered, alarms blared, and smoke curled along the decks. Some crew members stumbled under the sudden lurch, but they did not falter. Fear was present, yes, but it was tempered with determination. They were humans, and humans never gave up. Shields holding at 60%, reported the engineer, sweat streaking her face. Hull integrity stable, but we can't take another full strike like that. Elias nodded, his jaw firm. We won't need to, he said. Prepare the guns. Target their lead ships. Show them what it means to face humanity. The Resolute responded as if it had been waiting for this moment. Its cannons roared, tearing through the darkness. Beams of energy seared across space, striking alien cruisers. The first warship exploded in a shower of fire and metal. The Zareth fleet faltered, their confidence shaken. One ship, just one, was fighting like an entire armada. Admiral Threx's tentacles twitched in frustration. Increase firepower, he roared. Destroy that human relic before it kills more of my fleet. But with every attack, the Resolute seemed to anticipate, dodging, absorbing, striking back with deadly accuracy. Its old hull groaned under the pressure, yet it held. The humans inside worked as one. No fear, no hesitation. Every shot was calculated, every movement precise. Captain, Mara said, her voice trembling slightly. They're regrouping. They're preparing another wave. This could overwhelm us. Elias looked out at the vast enemy fleet, fire lighting their weapons, ready to crush him. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. Let them come, he said quietly. We are humanity. One ship is enough to stand against an empire. One ship is enough to make them fear the stars. For the first time, some of the Zareth officers hesitated. They had expected fear, submission, easy victory. Instead, they saw defiance. They saw courage. They saw humans fighting not because they had no choice, but because they refused to surrender. And in that moment, the galaxy seemed to pause, watching as a single human ship prepared to face the impossible. The challenge had begun, and the laughter of the aliens, so loud at first, now faltered under the shadow of human resolve. The void erupted in fire. The Zareth fleet, confident and cruel, had fired their first full volley. Beams of energy streaked through space, cutting toward the Resolute. The human ship shuddered under the impact, alarms screaming through its corridors. Sparks danced along the bridge, smoke curled from damaged consoles, and the scent of burning circuitry filled the air. For a moment, it seemed the aliens' laughter might be justified. But the humans inside did not panic. Each crew member moved with precision born from preparation, training, and sheer determination. Lieutenant Mara adjusted the shields, her fingers flying over the controls even as sparks fell around her. Shields holding at 45%, she reported. Incoming damage is heavy, but the hull is stable. Captain Elias stood firm, his eyes locked on the view of the fleet outside the viewport. Hundreds of enemy ships armed to annihilate a planet were focused on a single human vessel, and yet somehow the Resolute still floated, still fought, still lived. Prepare the guns, Elias commanded, his voice calm but filled with authority. Target the lead ships. Fire at will. Show them the cost of underestimating humans. The ship responded as if it had been waiting for this moment. Its ancient cannons roared, echoing through the silent void. Massive kinetic shells tore through the enemy formation, ripping hulls apart like paper. Energy beams lanced out from the ship's turrets, striking cruisers and destroyers alike. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers in the darkness, scattering fragments across the battlefield. For the first time, the Zareth officers hesitated. Their weapons, designed to crush entire fleets, were no match for the precision and ferocity of a single human ship. What they had assumed would be a simple, humiliating victory was now a nightmare unfolding before their eyes. Admiral Threx's tentacles lashed in frustration. Increase firepower? Focus everything on that ship, he roared. Destroy it before it destroys more of my fleet. But with every strike the aliens launched, the Resolute seemed to anticipate, dodging, absorbing, and retaliating. Its shields glimmered, holding back impossible damage. Its guns struck back with terrifying accuracy. Even as small explosions rocked the ship and debris scattered across the decks, The human crew continued their work. Fear was there, yes, but it was tempered by courage, by pride, and by the unshakable belief that they could not fail. "Target destroyed," said the weapons officer, his voice tight with excitement and disbelief. "Another cruiser has gone. 2 more are critical." Elias allowed himself a brief nod, but he did not celebrate. This battle was far from over. The aliens had the numbers, the firepower, and the experience. They were relentless. And yet the human ship pressed forward, refusing to yield, refusing to retreat. From the edge of the fleet, smaller Zareth ships began to scatter, their confidence cracking. They had laughed at humanity, mocked the idea of a single vessel standing against them. Now their laughter was gone, replaced by fear, confusion, and the grim realization that they had underestimated a species they thought long defeated. "Captain," Mara said, her voice trembling slightly, "they are regrouping. They will try another assault." Elias looked out at the field of fire and debris, at the burning remnants of ships that had thought themselves invincible. He felt a surge of pride. "Let them come," he said quietly. "Every ship they send, every shot they fire only proves one thing. Humanity fights when the odds are impossible. And one ship is always enough." In the cold, dark expanse of space, the Resolute moved like a phantom of history, its guns roaring, its shields shimmering, its crew unbroken. One ship against hundreds, one species against an empire. And in that moment, the galaxy began to realize that humanity was not finished, nor fragile, nor to be mocked. The first strike had been delivered. The aliens would never forget it. The Zareth Empire was not used to being defied. Entire planets had fallen at their command, entire fleets crushed without mercy. Yet here before them floated a single human warship that refused to bow. The Resolute had shattered their assumptions and turned their confidence into fear. Admiral Threx's tentacles lashed in anger. "Concentrate all firepower! Surround it! Tear it apart!" His voice echoed through the fleet like thunder, shaking even the bravest of his officers. Hundreds of warships surged forward, their weapons blazing, determined to end the human threat once and for all. On the bridge of the Resolute, alarms screamed, sparks danced along walls, and smoke curled through the corridors. The impact of hundreds of enemy weapons hammered the shields, forcing the crew to their stations, hands shaking but steady. Every system was pushed to its limit, and yet the ship endured. "Shields down to 30%, shouted the engineer, her voice strained. "If they keep hitting like this, we won't last long." Captain Elias's eyes burned with resolve. He did not flinch. "Hold your ground. Every shot we fire, every second we resist proves humanity cannot be crushed. Stand firm." The crew tightened their grips on controls, their fear tempered by determination. Each human aboard understood the stakes. They were not merely fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every human colony that still survived, for the memory of their ancestors, and for a future that many had written off as impossible. The Zareth fleet advanced, their formations tighter, their fire more relentless, but with every strike they landed, the Resolute retaliated. Its massive cannons tore through enemy cruisers, railguns rended armor like paper, and energy beams scorched through capital ships. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space, painting the void with fire and light. "Another wing destroyed," reported the weapons officer, his voice a mixture of fear and awe. "They can't hold against this." Yet the human ship bore its wounds. Small fires burned along the decks. Debris floated in zero gravity, and some crew members were injured, but none left their stations. Humanity's courage was not measured in numbers or strength, but in spirit. They would not abandon their ship. They would not abandon each other. "Captain," Mara said, her voice trembling, "we're running low on power in the main guns. If they press another wave, we could—" Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we fight smarter. Humanity has never relied on luck or numbers alone. We rely on our minds, our courage, and our will. Let them see what it means to face a people who refuse to surrender." The Zareth admiral could not understand this. His calculations, his strategies, his entire logic revolved around overwhelming force. Yet here was a species that defied probability itself. One ship, one crew, stood against an empire and struck fear into its heart. Every explosion outside the hull, every ship torn to pieces, every flash of fire and metal reminded the humans why they fought. This was not merely survival. This was defiance. This was humanity saying to the galaxy, "We will not be forgotten. We will not be erased." The Resolute rocked under another massive hit and systems flickered. Yet the crew only worked faster, stronger. They patched, they recalibrated, they fired again. One by one, alien warships fell. Their pride and confidence shattered alongside their hulls. Captain Elias looked out at the destruction, smoke and debris stretching across the void. His voice was quiet, but each word carried the weight of a species. Remember this day. Remember that humanity does not kneel. We may be small, but we are unstoppable when cornered. One ship, one people, is always enough. And in that moment, the Zereth fleet realized the terrifying truth. Humanity had not returned merely to survive. Humanity had returned to fight. And one human ship had already proven that the galaxy would never mock them again. The battlefield in space was a storm of fire, metal, and chaos. The Zereth fleet, once confident and arrogant, now reeled under the relentless assault of the Resolute. Hundreds of ships had advanced with the intent to destroy a single human vessel, yet they found themselves scattered. Their formations broken, their pride shattered. Captain Elias stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the destruction outside. The viewports glowed with explosions as alien cruisers were torn apart by the human ship's weapons. Railguns had sliced through hulls like paper, and kinetic shells had ripped capital ships in half. Everywhere the crew looked, debris floated silently in the void, a testament to their relentless courage and skill. Lieutenant Mara could hardly believe what she was seeing. "Captain, they're retreating. The fleet, it's breaking apart." Her voice trembled with a mixture of fear, excitement, and awe. Elias's lips curved into a faint, grim smile. They underestimated us. That was their first mistake. But we will not stop until they understand exactly what humanity is capable of. The Resolute pressed forward, weaving through the shattered remnants of enemy ships. Its engines roared, propelling it with a power that belied its age. Every gun, every turret fired with deadly precision, cutting a path through the enemy forces. For a species that had once been forgotten, humanity was making its presence known with a force that could not be ignored. On the bridge, the crew worked with synchronized efficiency. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and smoke curled in the corners of the room, but no one faltered. Every operator, every gunner, every engineer understood their role and performed it with unwavering determination. They were not fighting just for themselves. They fought for every human colony, every forgotten world, every ancestor who had ever looked to the stars and dared to dream. Admiral Threx, watching from the bridge of his flagship, could not hide his fear. His many eyes widened as he observed the destruction. "Impossible," he whispered. "One ship? How can one ship do this?" The answer was clear outside the viewport. The Resolute moved like a phantom through the stars, a shadow of history and fury combined. Its weapons never faltered. Its shields absorbed blows that should have shattered it. Its crew fought as one, a living embodiment of human tenacity and courage. "Captain," Mara said, her voice steady now, "their command ships are exposed. If we strike, we can destroy the heart of their fleet." Elias's eyes gleamed with determination. "Then we strike. Humanity does not wait for safety. We act, we fight, and we win. Prepare the final salvo." The Resolute unleashed a barrage like the galaxy had never seen. Beams of energy lanced outward, tearing through alien capital ships. Kinetic rounds smashed hulls, exploding in brilliant showers of fire and metal. The Zereth command vessels, once untouchable, now burned in the cold darkness of space. One by one, the enemy fleet fell, scattering in panic, their arrogance replaced with terror. The crew cheered quietly, their voices mingled with the hum of the ship and the distant glow of destruction. They had fought the impossible and begun to win. Yet no one on the Resolute celebrated too loudly. There were still ships left, still dangers lurking. The battle was not over, but the tide had turned, and humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to fight with courage, skill, and unyielding spirit. Elias looked at the burning wreckage of the enemy fleet and whispered, "They thought one human ship would be easy to destroy. They thought we were weak. Let this be the day the galaxy remembers. One human ship, one people, is always enough." And in the void of space, amidst smoke, fire, and shattered warships, the Resolute glowed like a beacon of defiance. The humans aboard knew they had done more than survive. They had turned the tide of battle and perhaps begun to change the way the galaxy would see humanity forever. The battlefield was quiet now, but the silence was heavy. The Zereth fleet had been scattered, their pride shattered, their warships drifting in ruin across the void. Flames burned in the distance where their mighty ships had fallen, and debris floated like cold stars in the emptiness. Among it all, the Resolute still moved, battered but unbroken, a single human ship standing victorious against an empire. Captain Elias stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the remnants of the enemy. He was tired, every muscle aching, every thought weighted with the memory of those lost in battle. Yet beneath the exhaustion, pride burned brighter than any star. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, not as a forgotten relic, but as a force to be remembered. Lieutenant Mara walked beside him, her face streaked with soot and sweat. "We did it, Captain," she said softly, disbelief and relief in her voice. "We really did it." Elias shook his head slowly. "No," he replied. "We didn't just survive. We reminded the galaxy who we are. One human ship, one crew, one species, is enough to change the course of history." Around the bridge, the crew worked quietly, tending to the wounded and stabilizing systems. Some stations were empty now, crew members who had given their lives for humanity's defiance. Their sacrifice weighed on everyone, a stark reminder that victory was never free. Yet their bravery inspired those who remained. They had died standing, fighting for a cause greater than themselves. The stars beyond the viewport reflected in Elias's eyes as he spoke to the silent void. "Let every species that sees this know. Humanity cannot be crushed. We do not surrender. We do not fear. And we will fight no matter the odds, no matter the enemy, no matter the cost." Even far away among the scattered remnants of the Zareth fleet, the message of the humans' defiance spread. Across comm channels, alien commanders whispered in disbelief, fear replacing arrogance. They had laughed at one human ship, and now they knew their laughter had been a mistake they would never repeat. Elias turned to his crew. "Prepare to set course for human space. We return as victors. Not because we were lucky, but because we are humans. We fight with courage, with heart, and with unyielding spirit. Let the galaxy hear our story. Let it remember us." Mara nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "They'll never forget us now," she said, her voice firm yet trembling. The Resolute moved forward, engines blazing, battered hull glinting under distant starlight. It carried not just the weight of one battle, but the legacy of a species that had refused to vanish. Every scar on its hull, every burn mark, every dent was a testament to the courage of those aboard. Humanity had shown that even when faced with impossible odds, one ship, one crew, one people, could stand and triumph. Captain Elias pressed a hand to the console, feeling the pulse of the ship as if it were alive. "We are humanity," he whispered. Strong, defiant, unstoppable. As the Resolute turned its battered hull toward home, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as though the galaxy itself recognized the courage it had witnessed. A legend had been reborn, and the humans aboard knew that their fight had just begun. They had survived, yes, but more than that. They had reminded the universe of the truth. Humanity never surrenders, never falters, and never forgets its courage. And somewhere, in the endless expanse of space, the echoes of alien laughter that had once mocked them were replaced by silence, awe, and fear. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. One ship, one species, one human heart standing against the void, and it was enough.